Hi, I'm Nicolas Macotto. I'm 17 years old and I live here in Santa Cruz, California with my parents, my mom and my dad, and my two dogs. This is Toto, my oldest dog, and this is Maximus, my other dog. One thing I did over the summer was attend a journalism and media conference in Virginia at George Mason University. It all happened one day when, out of the blue, one night, I got a letter from them saying they would like me to represent all of California by going to the conference. It seemed like a good opportunity, and probably my only chance of going back home to the East Coast, so I said yes. I was actually born in Virginia, Fairfax to be specific. I lived there for the first 4 years of my life, but then I moved to Maryland. I lived there for a total of 8 years, and when I was 12, I came to California, 4,000 miles away from Maryland. My mom is actually alumni at George Mason. So when I got there with her and my dad, she was very surprised to see how much the campus has changed since she graduated years ago. After I arrived, I had to say goodbye to my parents for a week, and I was assigned a dorm. I had a roommate named Stevie, who was from New Jersey. Everybody in the conference was assigned to a color team. I was assigned to the pink team. And I received one of these notebooks to use for the rest of the week to take notes and anything else we needed to write down. I met my advisors, Melissa and Brooke, a little later on, and then I met the rest of the team. Apparently I wasn't the only one from California. This is Amanda from Escondido, California, which is pretty close to San Diego. From Bakersfield, California, we have Katie. Next we have Connor from Newport News, Virginia. Catherine from Cincinnati, Ohio. This is Susan, a fellow Marylander like me, but from the city of Boonesboro. This is Megan from Sharon Springs, New York. And this is also Megan, but she's from Buffalo, New York. Kalea from Chantilly, Virginia. Kelsey from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Will from Telluride, Colorado. Andrew, originally from Danville, California, but now lives in Memphis, Tennessee. Gabby, who is also from Philadelphia. Jamie from Port Orange, Florida. Kaylee from Fort Collins, a city that's also in Colorado. Another Brooke from Moore, South Carolina. Sam from Westport, Massachusetts. Sienna from Omaha, Nebraska. Simone from Wilmington, Delaware. And last but absolutely not least, Victoria from Oxford, Michigan, but also has citizenship in Ireland. After I settled in, Melissa and Brooke went over basic rules for us to follow and also the basic concepts of what the conference was going to be about, such as what was going to happen, what we were going to do. It was going to be interesting, I knew that from the start. Dinner was next on the schedule. Now, I did not know how many people there were going to be at this conference. I thought there were going to be 50 people total, one person per state, because I got the letter saying I was going to represent all of California. But there were about 200 to 300 of us. I didn't even know if there were going to be boys and girls at this conference. We were supposed to have speakers throughout the entire week. Our first speaker of the night, which we had after dinner, was Tina Rosenberg, a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer and journalist. She described for us the career of journalism and the types of stories written in that field of work. She told us that it can be hard maintaining that career, but if it is what you love to do, and it is what you want to do, you should do it. The last thing that happened to us that night was that our teams got together and we got to know each other a little bit more. Oh, I should also mention that each team had the option of creating their own chants. Oh yeah. Alright, let me tell you a little bit about some of them. like the red team. There was a red team, and they had this chant. They called them. It was like this: Red alert, whoop whoop. Red alert, whoop whoop. And the green team, yeah, they called themselves Gang Green. Yeah, their chant was, "What gang? Gang green. What gang? Gang green." When I told that to my mom, she thought that was disgusting. Purple called themselves Purple Rain in honor of Prince. We had a lime team, actually, and they referred to themselves as Optimus Lime. Yeah, as a Transformers fan, it was very hard for me to hear something like that. Yeah, they would say, Autobots, roll out! Because Optimus Prime from Transformers, he says, Autobots, transform and roll out! We had a Navy team, and they called themselves Navy SEALs. And we had a blue team. Steven was on the blue team. And their chant went something like this. I don't know if this is right, but this is what I remember. They would go, TRUEBLUE. What's that spell? True blue. Yeah, I think it was something like that. And oh yeah. And okay, I gotta say, the white team should definitely get some props for having the most original of chants. See, they based theirs off of the film The Incredibles.
Where is my super suit?
We, people at the Pink Posse, which is what we called ourselves at the Pink Team, did not have a chant at the time. We didn't know we could do that. And we thought to ourselves, okay, what do we do? What do we do? But I guess that was for another time. For me, day 2 was one of the 2 best days of the entire conference week. First thing we all did after having breakfast in the campus dining hall was take a bus to Arlington in Virginia so we could meet our next speaker, Hoda Kotb from the Today Show. She told us her life story and how she started her career. Not only did she have a great sense of humor, she was also pretty inspiring in the fact that she kept going for what she wanted despite all the rejections she had encountered in the past. And then we all ended up being a part of this video. She took a video of all of us, and I heard we were featured on the Today Show. Well, the video anyway. Interestingly enough, my Aunt Annie told me that she went to high school with Miss Kotb. So after the session, I went up to Miss Kotb and introduced myself to her, and thanked her for the presentation and being with us. And then I said to her, real quick, my aunt says she went to school with you. And then she asked me, who's your aunt? And then I say, Annie Maycock? She remembered her, and I told her I was saying hi to her on her behalf. And then she told me, please say hi to her when you get a chance, and I told her I would. After that, everybody at the conference had lunch at the building we were in, and then our next stop was to Washington, D.C. at the museum. I had been to the museum before a few years ago. I think it was back when I was in 6th grade, I think, for a field trip. It could have been earlier than that, though. With that being said, the place was definitely different from what I remember.
Mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know we've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Yeah. Father, we don't need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer, for only love can big sign. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, what's going on?
Dinner was hamburgers and hot dogs. After that, we all went down Pennsylvania Avenue to see, up close and personal, the outside of the White House. I had a rumor that we were supposed to go into the White House, but that didn't happen. The last part of the day was my favorite. Everybody had a chance to go see the monuments. We saw the World War II Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument and the Capitol. Washington, D.C. is pretty beautiful at night. And my teammates had me take a few pictures of themselves during their time wandering around seeing the monuments. In terms of trends though, we actually all decided to paint our pinkies pink. Yes, we did that. I did it and all the guys did it too. After all that, we took a bus back to campus to try and get some sleep. I was pretty happy that night. I even got back with a souvenir, a styrofoam microphone, this right here, from the museum. I thought it would be fun. We went out again to the National Geographic headquarters, where we met Susan Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of that magazine. She taught us the best way to tell a story through journalism, and she showed us photos from the magazine itself. In terms of photography, I actually became the official photographer for the Pink Posse. I suggested that we take a group photo on the stage where Goldberg spoke, and we did. The other groups liked what we did, and then they did the same thing respectively. We all had lunch at this Italian restaurant nearby, which to me was a New York style restaurant based on how it looked. And it was tasty. Our next stop was the National Press Club building. Kaylee, one of the members of our Pink team, actually had the opportunity to present one of the speakers. The president of the club, Thomas Burr, welcomed us, and then we met Brian Lamb, the founder and executive chairman of C-SPAN. It was a pretty interesting session. Mr. Lamb wanted us to express all of our thoughts on current events and issues such as the upcoming presidential election, gun rights, and discrimination based on race and gender. Everyone was opposed to discrimination based on race and gender, as am I. And they also believe we should have more restrictions on gun rights. As for the presidential election that's coming up, Mr. Lamb asked us who supported who. I would say 40 to 50% of people in the room supported Hillary Clinton, and 2% supported Donald Trump. But then Mr. Lamb asked, who here supports Donald Trump and is afraid to admit it? Quite a few more hands went up that time, actually. But most people were pro Bernie Sanders. All I did was just listen to what everybody had to say. There were some great points brought up, and I liked hearing what people had to say. But if I were to give a message to the world based on all the terrible things that have happened recently, here's where I would start. Good morning or evening, friends. Here's your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter
to tears and pain. It's that love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Hate's going round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far.
We kept talking about current events and politics in that room. Next up were three politicians, Zach Weinberg, Karen Kaifa, and Jen Bendery. People had the chance to ask for their thoughts on today's world. We all went back to campus for dinner later on, and our last speaker of the day was Mike Shear, a writer for the New York Times who focuses specifically on stories about the President of the United States. He was pretty funny, and very informal, and he told us about the time he went to Africa with President Obama and Michelle Obama and his kids, and how Obama did not want him to document a specific portion of the trip. The family saw a site where African slaves were held centuries ago. It was an ancient site. Well, okay, it was an old site. And Shear was pretty disappointed with the fact that he couldn't document it or record anything about it. And even more so when White House officials publicly detailed the story sometime later. But he knew it was best for the President of the United States to have some privacy. We stayed on campus for the whole day. Our first speaker was supposed to be one that would touch all of our souls. Carol Guzzi, a 4-time Pulitzer Prize winner. Everyone was warned that her presentation usually brings people to tears. I actually made it through without crying, and that's the truth. My parents made me out of stone, that's the least you could say about me. But it was very sad to watch the presentation. I mean, she had won prizes based on her photos of events such as the mudslide in Colombia in the 1980s, pets being lost and eventually reunited with their owners after Hurricane Katrina, the earthquake in Haiti a few years ago, and also kids from Sierra Leone who were adopted in America that lost limbs because of gangs. We were all taken aback by Guzzi's presentation that, in the end, we gave her a standing ovation. I actually got her autograph after that. Lunch was afterward, and then there was a session that I did not expect. A session about college applications. A recent graduate of George Mason and a current student there, they were the speakers, and they explained the whole process to us. And they had help from the Dean of George Mason, Amy Takayama Perez. They talked about what colleges look for in a person. Now, usually, every time we had a speaker, someone from one of the teams would go up there and bestow the speakers a token of appreciation. The person who bestowed Miss Takayama Perez a gift was her daughter, Kalea. Nobody saw that coming. Next on the agenda wasn't another speaker, but an activity. Each group was sent to separate rooms and we did a simulation. We all pretended that we were working for the Washington Post, and in small groups, we were given made-up stories to try and present to our editors why it should be on the front page. Our editors for the simulation were Sam, Andrew, and Amanda. And I was paired up with Connor for the simulation. Our story was about a fictitious train system called Fast Train that recently opened that can transport citizens much faster than the last train system that was opened. Yes, it was faster, but it had faced a lot of criticism from some politicians. I thought Connor and I could say certain politicians' names for this since it was all made up, all fake. But we decided to stick with legitimate facts and statistics to try and persuade our editors that it was front page material. You know, we thought that was going to work the best. But it was a shame, though. I was ready to do my impression of Bernie Sanders.
I am a citizen of New York, so I know the systems of trains and all subway systems alike. I believe that this new fast train system will not be beneficial to the people of Washington, D.C. It has come up too quickly, and something that fast may result in something disastrous. So I propose that we shut down this train system effective immediately.
That impression is pretty easy for me to do because I can already do a few New York accents, specifically Brooklyn and Long Island. Anyway, Connor and I presented our story to the editors with the title that I came up with, Life with the Fast Train. I think we did well in terms of presenting, even without the Bernie Sanders impression. But our story did not make the first page. The front page. But we were acknowledged for our title. And this simulation allowed me to understand how hard it can be as an editor of a newspaper. You know, they're the ones that have to choose what goes in the next paper and what doesn't. I mean, I feel bad for my editors at school. I was a writer for my school paper. I had written new staff write-ups, poems, and movie reviews. But I stopped writing the reviews once my editors couldn't fit all my reviews into one publication. So I stopped writing them, but I eventually created a blog for my reviews called Nixflix. My mom helped me come up with the name. I told some friends of mine at school about it, and as of now there are people in the US, France, and Germany checking out my reviews. This brings me to my next speaker, Kevin McCarthy, a film critic who also interviews actors and filmmakers. He is definitely the kind of guy I would sit down and talk for hours with based on our interests in film. He kept talking about how much he loved his job and all the experiences he had while constantly talking about movies, saying this movie or that movie. I was so happy. You have no idea how happy I was then. I had dinner afterwards, and the next session was actually a free choice. I went to the one by Assad Khan, a radio DJ for George Mason. I chose that one because since the age of 12, I have been a DJ. I can make people a playlist in a little less than an hour, a playlist they will love, and I have been the DJ for all my house parties, a baby shower, and a couple of events at my school. When Mr. Khan spoke, I felt like I was listening to a genius who knew the game better than anyone. He taught us what to do with the allotted time you have on the air, how long you should play music, and when exactly to go to commercial. Basically he was teaching us make the best of your time. I learned quite a bit from him. Finally, Charles Bramesco from Rolling Stone magazine was scheduled to speak. I was excited for Bramesco because I know the work of Rolling Stone magazine, and they are tough cookies. You know, I've actually been told in my reviews I'm very harsh. My advice to those people who think I'm harsh, read a 0-star movie rating from Rolling Stone. If you do, I'm sure you'll come up to me the next day and say, I am so sorry. Anyway, Bramesco had a deadpan sense of humor, and that was pretty appealing. Or amusing, I should say. Yeah, he said things like, making money is so dope. Just like that. And then he told us the 4 things to do in the career of journalism. Be flexible. Be passionate about what you do. Always find an original story to write. and be prepared for anything. First, we all went back to the Capitol to take a picture with all 200 to 300 conference attendees in front of the Capitol. What I didn't know about the Capitol was that it was being reconstructed at the time. Everyone also had a chance to get individual photos in front of the Capitol. Then you could either tour the inside of the Capitol, tour the Holocaust Museum, or just wander around and check out the other museums within the National Mall. You're supposed to be with a buddy, but I went out alone for a little while. The tours of the Capitol and the Holocaust Museum would have taken the entire 4 hours of freedom we had. We had exactly 4 hours. And I wanted to explore. I mean, there are some things at the Air and Space Museum I wanted to see.
Take me to the pilot, lead me to the chamber. Take me to the pilot, I'm not a stranger. Take me to the pilot, lead me to the chamber. Take me to the pilot, I'm not a stranger. Na na na, na na na, na na na, na 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 na, na na na, na na na, na na na, na 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 na.
While I was at the Air and Space Museum, I saw 7 members of my team. Amanda, Susan, Andrew, Will, Connor, Sienna, and Simone. They asked me if I would tag along with them for the rest of the day, and I said sure. And so, Amanda wanted to go see a few art museums. our adventure, we saw this hat stand with bucket hats, and we all decided to get one for ourselves. From that day, we became the Bucket Hat Squad. We had a good time that day. By 2:30, we had to go back to catch our bus back to campus. It was time to get ready for the gala, which was to celebrate us finishing the conference. We all had to dress up. The guys looked pretty sharp, I admit, and the girls looked stunning that night. The gala is a lot like a prom or a school dance, but they served us dinner beforehand. We had salad, chicken, and a chocolate cake I know my mother would have enjoyed. Everybody danced the night away until 11 p.m. The last day of the conference was definitely the hardest, especially for us at the Pink Posse. We all received diplomas saying that we are now alumni of the conference at the end. When we all had to say goodbye to each other, most of us were leaving in tears. It was unreal. We people at the Pink Posse became so close in so little time. Maybe it was because we all knew we had so little time and we knew we had to make the best of it. Truth is, we were all a little worried about what could have happened. But we got along so well. I mean, we all consider ourselves a family now, and we plan to stay connected for as long as possible. Yeah, it got me thinking about one of the things I've learned in my lifetime. No matter where you are in the world, you will always have a family. My Pink Posse family is the reason why this experience was so incredible for me. And I will always be grateful now for getting that letter that one ordinary day. Oh, speaking of which, apparently someone personally nominated me to attend this conference. I don't know who that person was, but I would definitely like to thank them. Now, before I wrap up, you should all know that I finally came up with a chant for Pink Posse that we all liked.
Ho away!
Pink Posse!
Ho away!
Pink Posse!
Ho away!
Pink Posse!
To all my families around the world, to my blood family, to my Maryland family, to my California family, to the brothers and sisters I've made at PCS who have now graduated and now living their lives, and to my Pink Posse family, I love you all. Live from Santa Cruz, California, this is Nicolas Macotto, and it is time for me to sign off. We sign off LL Cool J style. Bucket Squad!
Yo!
Bucket Squad!
Yeah.
This boy forgot his bucket.
I'm still buckets.
Bucket squad.
Bucket Squad!
I'm like the white Steph Curry.
And that's the conference. Thank you very much for watching this